Heaven's a spot.
Welcome tonight to the Roundtable. I'm your host, Adam James Velez, and I'm joined by two partners in crime and co-hosts, DJ Tommy James Extraordinaire and Mr. Aaron Merrill, lead singer of The Arrows and the original singer and writer of I Love Rock and Roll, which was made famous by himself and Dr. of Joan Jett. Alan, what's your take? What's going on today in the music industry?
Right now, the music industry's changed completely since when I started. I started in 1969 on RCA Records Japan with a group called The Lead, beginning my blessing and oppressing by major labels because they tell you what to do.
Yeah.
They sign you and then they tell you what you're going to be musically. And I was sort of cursed with having like this David Cassidy-ish look back then. So they all wanted to make me into a pop idol, but I was writing stuff that was a lot heavier than that. So my second deal was with Atlantic Records Japan. I was the first male signing to Atlantic Records Japan in Japan, 1970. And they made me do a whole album in Japanese with other people writing it. So I didn't like that, so I actually got out of the contract because it was written in Japanese, and I said,
I can't read this.
I said, yeah, it's not a legal document because I signed it, but I can't read it. So I went to Columbia Records and did an album all in English in Japan. Very unusual for that day, in 1971. And they wanted me to stay in this sort of very commercial songwriting thing. I wrote a song on that album, Merrill 1, for Tiny Tim, where he covered, at the peak of his...
I love Tiny.
That was my first big cover. First big cover songs with Tiny Tim, 1970.
You look like Tiny Tim.
I kind of look like Tiny Tim. I tiptoe through the tulips sometimes.
Yeah.
I know, all the time.
This was a song called Movies. It was on Scepter Records. And I wanted to go into glam rock because glam rock was starting up in the end of 1971. I was watching David Bowie and Mark Bolan do that, and I wanted to do that. Columbia Records said no. We want you to stay in this very commercial vein you're writing. I said, no, I don't want to do that. So I shook hands, got out of that contract, went to EMI Records, did an album, and I got 2 hits, a double A-sided hit with Sands of Time, Automatic Pilot, in Japanese. So I was the first person in the world to sing glam rock in Japanese.
Wow.
That's
Can
awesome.
you fluent in Japanese?
Well, I speak Japanese.
Yeah? Can you say I love rock and roll in Japanese?
Daisuki rock and roll.
Daisuki rock and roll.
That's it. So anyways, I did an album, and it was still being released, called Tokyo, New York, by my band, Vodka College. The problem was they weren't paying me, so I had 2 meetings with my manager. I said, if you don't pay me properly where I can pay my rent, I'm going to leave Japan, because I had 2 hit records. We're going to headline the Budokan, and that's it. So I left for England.
It's been hard too, like transitioning from Japan.
7 years in Japan, yeah.
Wow. And they basically you called their bluff.
I
How old were you at the time?
22. I arrived in Japan with no money. In London with no money, and just 2 guitars and some clothes. And I slept on my guitar player Jay Cooker's floor for about 2 months.
That must have been uncomfortable.
We got a record deal. With Rack Records. Mickey Most was our producer. Mickey Most, for those of you who don't know, produced The Animals, Herman's Hermits, Donovan, Lulu, Cozy Powell, Jeff Beck. I mean, the list goes on. And so I was fortunate to get a deal with him. So 6 months after I arrived in London, I was in the top 10 with a song called Touch Too Much, produced by Mickey Most.
Wow.
Had 3 hits in a row with Touch Too Much, Toughen Up, and My Last Night With You. Then the 4th single was one I wrote, I Love Rock and Roll, but Mickey Most didn't like his bands to write their own songs. So there was the least promoted Arrows record.
Wow.
We had 1 TV spot with it on a show called 45. And the producer said, you should have your own TV series. Because the Bay City Rollers were giving up their show. So I said, okay, that's great. I didn't believe her, but it happened. So we got our own TV show in March 1976 in England. Weekly TV show every Tuesday. Joan Jett's in England in November of 1976 when I had my show, and she saw me do I Love Rock and Roll on the show, bought my record, did a version in 1979, didn't happen. It was a B-side. And then she did it again in 1982, went #1 for 2 months, and the song reignited. Britney Spears did it in 2002, hit all over the world except America. She didn't release it in America because the song was too strongly associated with Joan Jett.
Yeah.
But Ironically, I made more money out of Britney Spears' version than I did Joan Jett's version. She was a much bigger corporate artist. Yeah. She sold millions and millions of albums at the time. Britney was at the top of her game in 2002. Right. So the song's been a blessing for me.
But I'm just curious because I think that's one of the most recognizable anthems ever. What made you come up with the lyrics? What made you come up with the song? What were you going through that made you write
My
the song?
producer had very strict parameters for what the song had to be. Had to be a melodic verse, strong riff, rousing sing-along chorus.
Rousing?
Yeah, that
so
was his.
You got all that space.
His exact words, and and just, I got the chorus first. He approved of that. Then I wrote the verse and the riff that night, and I brought it back to him. He said, "Okay, we're going to go and record it." But he liked the B-side better, Broken Down Heart, so he put that out first. And his wife said, "Mick, I Love Rock and Roll's the single," so he flipped it last minute, and it was too late. Really, we got great reviews. Hit song, going to be a hit, going to definitely top 30. Just wasn't in the shops.
What was that? Was that on the show at the time? Did you?
No, we only did one in 1975. We released it. It was only one TV appearance, no radio, one play, and we were following up a hit, which was My Last Night with You. It got up to number 23. So you would think usually bands would get a Top of the Pops right after a hit record. We were the anomaly in that we never got Top of the Pops after a hit.
Wow.
So if we had had Top of the Pops with I Love Rock and Roll,
why didn't that happen?
I think the Rack had a glut of chart acts, Smokey, Susie Quattro, Mud. So it was almost called the Top of the Pops was the Rack show.
Right.
So there's only room for like a couple of Rack acts every week, and we were like the red-headed stepchildren at Rack.
The gingers.
What's interesting about you talk about your early career is that a lot of artists would just go along with this whole thing,
Yeah.
But you were just very direct. But I don't want to do this. I don't need David Cassidy.
It's been the bane of my career actually, because my stubbornness has kept me from going to the next level. But my stubbornness has kept me true to my music.
You have survived. You're still doing what you're doing. You're still true to what you're doing. You're still this enigmatic person. What advice would you give to a younger artist now that would like to still be making music, still be happy, still be...
Well, the music industry doesn't exist. There were record shops, and the record companies would get the records into record shops. If they didn't, you couldn't have a hit record. If they did, you had a chance of having a hit record. Nowadays, there are no record stores. I would suggest, if you're lucky enough to get some sort of a deal, it's probably going to be because you get something in a movie, a theme song of a movie, or a commercial, or songs on a television show, or you compete in a reality show or a competition like The Voice, and you win or you runner-up. Those are the new stars. I mean, that's just the way the business is set up.
How do you feel about that?
I'm sad. I miss the old music industry, you know?
Yeah.
But, it's digital now. You can't. The internet changed everything. On the upside, the internet made it much more difficult for people to rip you off.
Right.
Because every play is counted for. Whereas in the old days, they were skimming, and cheating.
Yeah.
Everybody thought I made millions of dollars from I Love Rock and Roll and Joan Jett did. That's really not true. If I had, I would have sponsored my own records, and I would have sponsored my own band to go on a tour. Instead, I went on tour with Meatloaf because I needed rent money.
Meatloaf?
Yeah.
Meatloaf. He would do anything for love.
Really?
But he won't do that.
But he won't do that.
No.
Don't do that.
Welcome back. We're going to introduce our special guest tonight, Mr. Jonny Podell, a premier talent agent who represented the likes of Alice Cooper, Crosby, Still Nash, and the Allman Brothers. Jonny, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Really excited to have you here. I know you have a lot of stories to tell. You've seen some things. What's going on, man? What are you up to these days?
I had a spiritual awakening about 5 years ago.
Namaste.
And what I realized when I was giving a talk at some of these summits, I didn't realize there was a time limit on my talk. I didn't realize I was supposed to prepare. I didn't realize a lot of things. So I'm just cruising and talking about my life, and then the organizer down front, he goes, 1 minute. I said, oh, okay. Well, then to summarize, for those of you who are my peers, I said, rock and roll has been the soundtrack of our lives.
Absolutely.
And I said to maybe the next generation, our children, it's also been technology. And to the new generation, millennials, people being born right now, I believe it is consciousness. And I said, consciousness is the new rock and roll.
You know, I think a lot of people, a lot of new acts, don't really understand the process of how music used to be discovered. You would go out to shows quite a lot.
Yeah, somebody like you would call me and say, Jonny, you want to see this band? And I would go. I remember actually it was a call just like that about Blondie.
Wow.
A friend of mine calls, he goes, what are you doing tonight? Before I could answer, he says, trust me, you want to do it, I'm telling you. I want you to come to CBGB's tonight, this place on, it's a pretty legendary place. You would have to see this band, Blondie.
What year was that?
Somewhere between 78 and 80 maybe. And so I went down, I do remember this. And if any of you have seen movies or anything, CBGB's like this place was long. Yeah. So there was a stage at the end, but really, unless you were the first 50 people, and that night the place was packed, I was all the way at the back. Okay. All the way at the back. And this band's playing, and like at the time, she was doing this thing like called the pogo, jumping up and down, And so I had to jump up and down to see her. And I knew, because what I saw was this most beautiful woman, right, singing punk songs, but with a pop flavor that everybody could wrap their arms around, not niche. And so she had it all. She had sex appeal, because at the end of the day, rock and roll is about sex.
Yeah.
Rock and roll is about sex, rebellion. No generation wants their parents rock and roll, right?
Yeah.
So I saw this was the next new thing, but I've always had a big world view. Could this translate into 70 countries? So what was really good, I'll tell you at the end of the story, really funny. So Debbie Harry, lead singer, she would go, we were about a year into our relationship, and she goes, Jonny, she goes, we want to stay punk. We want to just play small clubs. And she goes, and we want to make $1 million a week. I go, And she says, and you're all about the cover of People magazine, meaning that I'm like Mr. Commercial. And you know what? So there was me thinking big, her thinking niche, and out of the clash came a career.
I met Debbie in 1967. I was playing down at the Cafe Wa, and I came upstairs and I saw this girl, and she was all excited that she had a record deal with the Wind in the Willows. She wasn't the lead singer. She had dark hair back then.
Okay.
I remember, but she stood out. She had a lot of charisma back then.
Where was this?
Cafe Wa.
Cafe Wa downtown in the village.
And that was
I was playing the day
with,
show. But the day show had Bruce Springsteen with the Castiles, John Hall from New Orleans, and it was a great place to. Jimi Hendrix was playing the night show, and then he went over to England and came back and took over.
Came back, Jimi Hendrix in caps.
He was Jimmy James.
Uppercase.
He was Jimmy James in the Blue Flames, and he was playing a little Fender Duosonic. I remember, left-handed, upside down.
But I think your answer's probably better, different.
Yeah.
I don't feel that buzz, that, you know what I mean? That buzz about music in the same way where, you knew, when I was growing up in this, I was like, 23 when I started. It wasn't a matter of if you were going out to hear music that weekend. You were going, I'd call you and go, which show do you want to go? Early show Friday or late show Saturday?
Right.
You were going, and then, of course, money came into it, and then it became like, well, if we go see this, then I can't go on the vacation, got to get a cheaper car. So it kind of changed.
Yeah, so it's balancing out.
It kind of changed, So, no, I don't feel it, but, you never can feel the beginning of a revolution again. It was a revolution. It was a perfect storm, There was birth control came in, so for the first time there was safe sex. I don't mean safe from disease, but safe from unwanted pregnancy, right? There was this new art form called rock and roll fueled buy drugs and now available sex. And then there was the political climate.
Kennedy assassination.
Kennedy assassination, Martin Luther King, war in Vietnam. I mean, that moment in time may happen again. It's not happening now. That was truly, it was almost like you would put all those ingredients in a blender, and out came what we knew as rock and roll.
Yeah.
Perfect storm. So no, I don't feel a perfect storm today, but there's always good music.
I feel like all the ingredients are there, but the storm isn't happening.
Yeah, there are ingredients. I mean, I work with a lot of new bands, and I do get that excitement from a lot of them. They just don't know where to go.
Yeah.
Because we have the advantage of the internet, we have social media, but there's so much clutter.
Yeah.
It's
That's the thing.
The filter used to be you get on, just getting on stage was the filter. You got a guitar.
Yeah.
And we get really excited about new bands, but it's like, where do you go from that?
Yeah.
Alan, you found a great way to. You were almost a pioneer, really, with like the CD Baby thing.
Yeah, I was one of their first starters.
Yeah.
Indie, because I was too old to be signed by the majors.
Mm-hmm.
I had a fan base in Japan, fan base in England, Europe, and I thought I'd mine it myself, and I did, and it worked. I get paid very well from my indie stuff.
No, part of look, the same kids with the same energy are in the same garages. I didn't mean to say that that's not happening.
Yeah.
I just meant the whole combination of all of a sudden sex that you couldn't have, you can have, and I didn't mean it like that. No, that's all there, that same kid, angry, pissed at the world, hormonal, right? Guitar, I mean, those ingredients are all there.
But no neighborhood record stores.
Yeah.
But, let's get that. There's no characters.
But I can explain that,
Okay.
I think, because I think somebody said you were going to ask, what's the difference between then and now?
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay.
2 words. Difference between then and now. Fun, corporate.
Yeah.
So that's really the difference, the corporatization. So the beginning is the same.
Yeah.
But the people now, like you said, Warren is maybe, what's the word? Inspired, excited, calling their friends, oh my God, wait, this new band I got, this is like the next Guns N' Roses, or I could say Guns N' Roses at that time, which I'll tell you a funny story about that. But anyway,
Love to hear.
do I hear this funny story?
Absolutely.
So I represented Alice Cooper, right, who was shocking because he was the most hated band in this country. When his manager came to me, his manager was working me, he would book all my acts for this festival. And I loved it. He'd come into my office and he'd just buy all my stuff. And then one day I heard, he manages this act, Alice Cooper, a band with a girl's name. Guy wears high heels and makeup, and the boa constrictor and his feathers.
Guillotine.
And I'm
Just like you, Adam.
Yeah, I'm very similar.
And I'd be sitting in my office, and I liked the guy. I didn't realize he was working, man. I'm praying to God, oh, please don't ask me to represent. Like, this was the worst band ever. There was no glam rock category. This was, like, disgusting. Bands had, 4 dirty guys with guitars, right? Who is this? What is this? And I'm praying. Sure enough, after about a year of working his magic on me, the manager, he said, listen, love working with you. Please, don't ask me to date your sister. No. And he says, I really like you. I manage a guy named Alice Cooper. And I said, I said, listen, before you begin, I love you. But I said, why would I want to represent? I said, I heard the guy was at CBGB's last night or someplace. He only drew 12 people. And instead of denying it or rationally, he said, I'll give you one better. The 12 people walked out. So I said, I ask again, why would I want to represent Alice Cooper? He goes, because hate is just the other side of the coin of love. They're 2 different sides. He goes, it needs somebody to you to take all this hatred. People aren't apathetic about Alice. They hate him and turn it in with that same energy to love. And I went, my voice when I get nervous goes up, and I went, really? Really? So that was the thing. So, okay, Guns N' Roses, right? So now Alice is already on his way. Not like what he wound up, but on his way. Selling out theaters, 2,000 to 3,000 seaters. So a friend of mine that really was my best friend, and he'd been Alice's road manager, got on the job for a while, calls me up and goes, Jonny, he says, he lives in LA, I just saw the next big thing. And I could tell by his voice, it's like when I would call certain people, and they go, and I go, stop what you're doing, it's Jonny. I got it. I said, okay. He said, they're called Guns N' Roses. It is everything rock and roll is about. Sex, drug, and rock and roll. He said, Jonny, they take more drugs than all of us. I don't know if we can use profanity, he says, but they all live in this stupid apartment on Sunset Strip. They're all doing the same girls every night. And it's like, and when they get to do the show, it's everything rock and roll is about. He said the right word. I said, Dave, I got it. Here's what I'm going to do. Have they ever been out of LA? Have they ever played a big show? He said, no. I said, you get them up to Santa Barbara next Friday. They're going to open for Alice Cooper. Because you're kidding, right? But we should have known. Ready? Here's the punchline. The band shows up without Axl. Their first big break, right? That any band, like you say, undiscovered, had to get through the backward one, and Axl didn't show up, and like
You got lost in the jungle, I think.
Several years ago, I went to Cyndi Lauper, my client, for 25 years, and it was Christmas, and I was having a agency Christmas dinner. Maybe I was a little high, and I put my arm around her. I said, Cyn, you know what I'm going to do for you? I'm going to mount a tour to support gay rights, and I'm going to call it True Colors. I'll never forget. She goes, really, Jonny?
That's her voice.
And that has evolved into being the #1 website for homeless youth. You know, the GLBT population, or the gay population, they estimate it's about 15%, right, of the people that have come out. But they are 40% of the homeless population. Think about that. Somebody comes out and goes, Dad, I just want to tell you something. Get the F out. And we're the #1 website for that. In D.C., we went last year. They declared it National True Colors Day. We've had legislation passed. And, you know, things like that are the reason that I wake up in the morning.
So you've got a new artist. You're looking after a new artist. Tell me a little bit about that.
To be honest, I wasn't really looking for any new thing because I think I said earlier I had this awakening.
Yeah.
And I immersed myself in consciousness. So without looking, I was on vacation to my favorite spot in St. Bart's, and we're looking for stuff to do. And so one night we're at a restaurant, and I see this band. And I would have said at that time, you know, I wasn't really, you know, I moved on. And I saw this band, and then I absolutely stayed, introduced myself. That was their only show. We stayed in touch. And then, I don't know, a couple of years later, I'm in the parking lot of a hotel because I used to go there often. And I hear a guy, and it was the percussion. It was Papa.
I know Papa.
Papa Guyo.
He is a force of nature.
And he goes, Peter Gabriel's agent. I said, yeah, Jonny. He says, right. He says, I'm with Nungan. That's the name. Nungan, Nungan. And he said, oh my God, we've always talked about you. We blah, 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 blah. He says, we're on the island. The next 5 nights, I went to every crappy bar they played. That excitement was still there. What did I see in them?
But they played here at Ethel's out in New York City. They were fantastic.
They're magical. She's beautiful. So there's there's the sexy part of the thing. And can play, and can sing in 2 languages. There's a charm factor, there's a sophisticated factor, there's a sexy factor.
And you got Papa in the back playing drums.
Oh, and he's
pointing at phantoms.
Yeah, and it's like having Sly and the Family Stone behind you. Thing. Sure. I think, you know, in this whole indie band thing, I know, and how do they break out? Who do they get to Jonny Podell? How do they get this deal? How do they do that? And I can actually tell you that too, in a sense. It's not really that different, even though there's, you know, social media. All these million bands today that are making music, they're not all certain. They're thinking, well, if this doesn't work out, I'll go into Dad's business. If this doesn't, there can't be an if.
Yeah.
It cannot
and all
be
the bands before, that was it. It was like, I'm either doing this,
no safety net. No safety net. I'm not saying that alone makes it, but that's a big piece.
Absolutely.
Inject certainty, no safety net, no anything else. Yeah, and that combined with great music, I would say you're halfway there.
All right.
Wow.
I'd like to give a shout out to My Music Network, because this network is such a beautiful vehicle.
Yeah.
The consciousness behind this network is to give, instead of give peace a chance, to give bands a chance. And it's so really beautiful, and that's why I agreed to do this. It's my way of saying, hats off. Could I leave with one more tip?
Absolutely.
To all of you, indie people or people starting out, have consciousness in your heart. Do what you do. But do what you do with a part of it for something.
Absolutely.
Because then I'm going to give you a real little hint. Then you got God on your side. You can't beat that.
Yeah. Whoa. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jonny Podell, the legend.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. This was really
Great.
Fantastic.
really great.
You're watching the best indie music at MyJam Music Network.
Now for our final segment, we introduce to you the game
Of tones.
First act up is going to be the Casey Hopkins Trio, and their song is called Touch.
Woo!
And I need your loving. I need all of your kisses, come on. And I need your attention, baby. And I need all of your intentional harm. I live in love. Live in love. Yes, I live in love. Your love is mine. And I need your attention. I need all of your affection. Come on. I need your attention. I need all of your touching. Come on. I live in love. I live in love. I live in love. Your love is mine. I need your obsession. I need all of your time. Come on. I need your affection. I need all of your intentional harm. I live in love. And I live in love. I live in love. Your love is mine.
What do you think,
I
Alan?
like the video very much. I know the music is strong. He's a classic rock artist. Good-looking guy.
You like
You
it?
know,
You like
yeah.
the way
I
it
mean,
looks?
he's got,
Great head of hair.
got, you
Great
got.
head of hair.
Good teeth.
Good teeth.
Well, I
teeth, yeah.
didn't see the teeth, but I mean, but I thought the song was commercial. I thought he was a good sound.
Yep.
His song was well structured. And the video was clever. I mean, it got your attention right away because you saw the girls in the shorts.
Yeah.
And that
Right.
makes you wait for the song to come, which
Okay.
is clever.
Yeah, I think the music's phenomenal. I think the guy's a super talented musician. And the video itself, I don't think really speaks for the talent behind the person playing it. I think the video is just packaging to kind
And
of
one song
feed
can
it.
never do that.
Well, I thought as well, 'cause knowing all these bands from Brooklyn, they're very indie, they're very left field. But Casey's definitely someone who would benefit from a major record contract.
And it's like one thing, like you have the Black Keys who have that recycled sound, and he does have that old school sound, but just to bring it to a new generation of people
For
and
someone-
to kind of switch it up a bit.
For someone like him to break, he'd need like a movie theme.
Yeah.
or a TV theme,
Oh yeah,
and then
it's a wrap.
it's a wrap.
Cool. Our next video is by Airport Impressions, and the song is called "Walk With Me." Let's take a gander at this and see how we feel about it. What do you think? What do you from the sights and sounds? What do you think?
Look, I mean, it's perfectly produced. It's like it's glamorously shot, styled in the right way. Everything's kind of perfect. For me, it's just not my cup of tea.
And he's English, so he knows about cups of tea.
He knows about cups of tea.
So,
I thought it sounded like Gwyneth Paltrow's husband's band. I can't remember their name.
Coldplay.
The guitar at the intro sounded like that.
Got the delay.
And then when if it had the delay, it would really sound like YouTube.
Right.
So yeah, that was my impression musically. Visually, they're not cohesive. Everybody in the band looks different. They don't have a look like the Rolling Stones have a look.
Yeah.
The Beatles had a look.
There was one guy he was working for Geek Squad. The other guy looked like he was the extra in the Gilmore Girls or something like that. Well, my only take from that was that I felt like they were the Backstreet Boys with guitars. They kind
of looked like a boy band.
They looked like a boy band with guitars. And listen, I think when it comes to the state, certain places and certain music, that is to me is extremely poppy and I think it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's supposed to have girls, teenage
But
girls.
does that audience exist? That's the question.
Yeah, well, they
because-
have to have an audience if they have a video. So what I'd say for them to improve, I guess, is just do what they're doing, like own it.
You said punk era, Clash had a look, Sex Pistols had a look.
Yeah.
Back in our
Arrows
day,
had a look.
Arrows had a look. We definitely
Yeah.
looked like brothers. You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's important.
Yeah,
it's an
absolutely.
important part
It
of the
needs to
sales.
be cohesive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there you go. That's
our advice for them.
They've got a shot. The music is all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the last video for tonight.
Yeah.
Last of 3. This band are actually from the Ukraine. They're called Star Crystal. And this song is called Don't Give Up. So let's
See if they're not giving up.
see if we actually are Star Crystals.
Yeah.
Thin village I hold, my father always repeats this word. I could never think that there will be such big growth. In my food, life feel fears were all this world.
what did you guys think?
I'm grabbing.
Hypothetical objects and pulling them slowly into your chest?
Don't exist.
I'm looking over the fans like I'm looking for a distant lover.
I'm kneeling on the floor.
Honestly, if you were Indian, your name would be on all fours.
I'm begging for your heart.
Oh, don't beg too hard.
And it did sound a bit like Hard.
It did.
Yeah, and yeah, I thought the song was good. She's a strong singer. She's pretty.
She's pretty.
The band once again had no look.
Right.
So
The
she's.
guy had the hat though, didn't he?
He had a top hat.
But she's the focus. So and she's fine.
How do you
So it's
feel
all
about
right.
the fact that they sang in English as opposed to their native?
I thought her English was good. I mean, ABBA could do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
My personal opinion is that I think they should stick with perhaps their native tongue, and it might make the song.
What you're trying to say?
That would never be an international song then.
Oh no.
You got to sing in English to be international.
She's trying to say they should stay in Ukraine because I think that's pretty like racist in a way.
I mean, the only song that made it in America that was number one was Sukiyaki, right? It was in another language. It was Valaria number one.
Hey, wait, guys! I've got one more question before we leave tonight. One more question. You see that door?
Yes.
Right. Okay, as Ethels, if anybody in the whole world, dead or alive, right now, could walk in right across here, and pull up another chair, just probably like next to you, Adam. That's okay. And come over and have a bit of Jameson's, Catskills, and join us here at the round table. Who would that be?
It would be Paul McCartney, who actually lives in the neighborhood.
And who actually walked through our front door.
And when I was playing Slow Down,
Yeah.
which I first heard by the Beatles, he stopped to listen and say, "Oh, they sound good. Is that a live band in there?"
No way. Oh, I
And
heard this story.
He almost came in, but some autograph seekers got to him and his wife pulled him away.
Okay, we're going to wrap this show up now. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, our studio audience. Thanks to Ethel's Alcohol and Food. Thank you to MyJam Music Network. I'd also like to thank our guest, Jonny Podell, our co-presenter here.
Mr. Alan Merrill.
Mr. Alan Merrill, of course, my partner in crime, Adam James. We are the James Gang, and this is brought to you by
Jameson Castmates.
Thank you so much. See you next time.
Getting down on every side. There's a place I know. Rich ladies in a red paint glow. A funky